guys, and welcome to week four of the Flinch squad circuit. We are in the Sun series. We are right in the midst of this tournament right now, and it is my pleasure this week to have another special guest on this series, and I'd like to introduce you all to my good friend and also competitor in this event, Nigel Wormseye. Some of you might know him as. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm very well, thank you. And yourself this evening, Lee?
I'm alright, mate. Yeah, I'm doing alright, thanks. I'm so happy to have you on here with us tonight. You're having an absolute stormer of a tournament so far. You're doing really well, so it's great to have you on, and it'll be nice to hear your input on some of the games tonight that we're going to be covering in the circuit for week 4.
Yeah, so far, as you said, it's been going really well so far. So 2 wins and a 2-1 loss puts me in very good stead, and obviously gives me a good springboard into the final few weeks. And obviously the game that I played this week versus Will was another one of those tight matches for me. So obviously
it's a really good set.
Yeah, obviously don't want to spoil anything, because we want to actually see the set and get information, but this was effectively a fight for first going into the coming weeks.
Yeah, and I think that's what made it quite an exciting set, and obviously it's taken me, annoyingly because I've not been well, a little longer to actually watch the game properly, but when I eventually got round to it, it is an incredible set to watch through. So hopefully you guys at home will like it. So remember to subscribe to the channel and make sure you leave a like for myself and also for Nigel, because we've got to share the love and appreciate that Nigel is taking time out of his day to come on and do this with us, which is just amazing. So going into week 4, here are the matchups. We've got they kicked off on Monday the 26th of November, so we're a little bit behind, but we'll be catching up with the review episodes this week and into next. So going into this week, we've got Hectic versus Pokemarty. We've got Will versus your good self, Nigel Wormseye. We've got Pinko versus Stu, which is going to be our other feature match on this episode today. We've got Urine versus Johnny, a real great tie up there, and it's a bit unfortunate because when I was recording the episodes to cut the videos down, the play codes that I was provided didn't work for Johnny or Urine, so that was really unfortunate. So if I can feature those at a later date and get those sorted, I'll put them in a different episode, because I think that's quite a good one to feature as well. And then we're rounding off with Stu, who's got 2 matches this week against Jaceface, so some interesting matchups here, mate.
Yeah, and, obviously all the matchups from what I've played so far and likely going forward, everyone's playing at a very similar level. It's only small things here and there that are really deciding sets, and it's keeping it close as well. Yeah,
I think it's like really tight at the moment, and it's still, with so many weeks left to play and so many matches left to play, it's still wide open. No one's quite... There are a few players kind of running away from the pack, but no one's like clean cut got it. It's not sealed. It's definitely still open. There's still a lot to play for, so it's going to make it really interesting going into the latter stages of the tournament to see who can kind of just get on a bit of an end roll and maybe take that trophy. So next week on the review episode, we will be revealing the trophy for the Sun series and all the prizes as well around that. So that's going to be super exciting for you guys and the players, because the players haven't seen any of this yet. So it's going to be really nice to be able to kind of showcase it to everyone all at the same time and see what these guys are going to be playing for in this Sun series.
Yeah, we're all looking forward to seeing that trophy.
Oh man,
that trophy.
Honestly, the trophy is... I'm a bit sad that I'm not actually playing in the tournament, because I kind of would like that trophy sitting up there if I could, but it's really nice. It's really nice, and I hope you guys like it. I think you will. So I think it'd be really cool. So we've got, how I've done with the trophies is there's going to be a Sun Series one, and then there's going to be a bit of an alternative one to the Sun Series for the Moon Series. Then we're going to have a beast of a one for the Ultra Series, and then the Invitational is going to be the custom trophy, which is going to be the big one that everyone wants to take away with them at the end of the year. So these are kind of like little regionals, and then you've got, well, it's kind of like, these are like little internationals, I guess, and then we've got the Worlds at the end of the season, but we'll see how it goes. But it's been a lot of fun so far, and the circuit will be improving as we go on. So I'm just going to do a shameless plug, but if there's anyone out there that wants to play in this circuit, be featured on the channel, have consistent competitive matchups and environment in the VGC circuit, then you can hop over to the Patreon. The Moon Series will be starting on January the 7th, so you can sign up before then. Sign-ups will be going up in the next couple of weeks. Just stay tuned to this series, and you'll find out as and when they do go up, and all the information with that as well. But without further ado, Nigel, should we get into this one?
Yeah, let's get the ball rolling.
Cool, so we're going to start off with your match against Will here. So I will hit the play button, and if there's any points throughout this you would like me to pause, just let me know and we can stop it and we can talk through some. So there you go, there's Nigel on your screen for you all, looking great, and he's is it like a judo outfit? Or
yeah, it's a gi or something like that, I think is how it's pronounced.
It's cool. So you're leading off with the Tapu Fini and the Xerneas here, and there's the Stakataka and the Cortana from Will's End. So you protecting there from the Smart Strike from Cortana here, and make the nice play turn one, going for that taunt under the Stakataka, really fearing that Trick Room, which you do deny there.
Yeah, if you pause just there, because that first turn specifically was very important, because obviously there's not a lot of information that I knew about Will's team, even from game one. There's obviously pieces that I've gleaned from his other games that have been featured, but obviously certain parts of it haven't been shown.
Yeah.
And I think that turn was really ballsy in a lot of different ways, because if I get Xerneas set up and I can get the taunt onto Stakataka, it does leave Will's whole entire team in a lot of peril. But obviously there's certain I played it really dangerously to try and get the taunt off onto the Tapu Fini, and if Cortana had leaf bladed into Fini, it could potentially have knocked me out, and that would have left me in such a horrible position.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be too far to think that could be a play that he makes, because with the Stakataka there, you're kind of thinking, well, you've got the kind of assurance from the Stakataka to hit the Xerneas and remove that from the field straight away, and then you've got the Cortana, which is like the loose end to just get rid of the Fini, that could be the more support option for your side of the field. So it wouldn't be out of the realms of possibility that would be the play that you make, just rather than go Trick Room, just go Gyro Ball, Leaf Blade, and you're kind of covering a lot of bases there. And that could have worked out really bad for you. So you made the right play, obviously, wanting to shut down the Trick Room, because I think the one thing that you identify from the team preview between the two teams is that Stakataka and how obnoxious it can be if it gets a Trick Room up, especially with that Amoonga support as well. But yeah, I think the Cortanas in this match are the two big things that really will kind of make the difference outside of the Stakataka, of course.
I mean, the Stakataka is a huge problem for the team that I'm using. It's just because it's got such a gargantuan defense stat, actually whistling it down can be a severe pain, and there's only a couple of ways that I can actually physically do it with this team. The Cortana is one of them that I actually switched in on the following turn to take a potential further Smart Strike into what was the Xerneas slot. And Incineroar's Flare Blitz, which spoilers, I didn't actually bring for game one, so obviously that's just a little bit of info that you can't see from the screens. But yeah, if you roll through, I think the Cortana's now going to go for the Smart Strike into mine.
Yeah, so you've got the Fini there with the Icy Wind. I think your Cortana's already moved, going for that. So the Cortana on Will's End doesn't like to deal with that speed drop, doesn't like that it's locked into smart strike, switches out into Kyogre. But you make a really nice play there and catch the switch in with... you make the nice play to get the Leaf Blade onto his Kyogre, so that was a really nice play here. But then it just gives Will the opportunity to bring in that Kartana again, which has been such a threat. Obviously, we are seeing that you are utilising your Kartana so well in this game, and then that was the end of that match. So I have cut down the matches quite a lot in this one, but there I think some pivotal turns, especially the one where you catch the Kyogre with the Leaf Blade and get rid of that, because that's like his big... He obviously didn't bring the Palkia to that game, so getting rid of that one restricted was such a big turn. And like I kind of said earlier, I think it's how you're utilising the Kartanas on both sides of the field will determine how the match kind of plays out a lot of these kind of games that you're going into against Will.
Yeah, obviously Will's team, he's perfected this squad over quite a number of weeks, so it works for him, and it obviously shows in the way that he's playing. He's quite aggressive in how he's approaching the matches as well, which I think actually is a good thing for this series. You need to be very punchy with how you want to play things, because otherwise if you're too passive, you're not getting the opportunities to secure those vital knockouts that are going to be important later on. And if you can't get the ball position right, you're basically sunk.
Yeah, I think that's some really good points there, because it isn't a format where you can play passive. I think you've got to be really direct and really precise with your choices of every turn that you're making, because like that little bit of complacency will be the moment that your opponent just picks up their side and the momentum swings in their favour, and then you're too far behind, and it's very punishing once that starts to happen in games, and it's really hard to kind of make that deficit up after that happens. So yeah, I think like having that play style where you're really just, you aren't being passive at all, you're just being direct and you're being quite aggressive at the same time. It does work out quite well in this sort of format, because all you need to do really is get rid of the restricteds most of the time, and then if you've still got 3 or 4 Pokemon left on your side of the field, you've got enough to switch around and clean up the match from that point of view.
Yeah, but some of the supporting cast are just as dangerous, if not more so. And
oh yeah.
We do see that in so many different games, that they can be as big a role to support big hitters as much as anything else that we've had in previous formats.
It's strange as well, you say that as well, and like the two things that we've identified, two things that I've mentioned going into this game, the 2 Pokemon are both non-restricted Pokemon, one being Stack Attacker and one being Kartana, so completely backing up your points there that, these non-restricted Pokemon are sometimes more threatening than the restricted themselves, but at the same time I feel like these Pokemon are so threatening because they free roles up for the restricteds to do their jobs like you want them to do. So and a lot of the time if they're gone, then the roles that you're kind of supporting to allow them to operate is kind of null and void, if you get what I mean. So
yeah,
what were your thoughts going into game 2 here? I'm just going to
as you can see, I didn't change up my lead because I didn't feel like there was a necessary adjustment that I needed to make at the time. Obviously, I did play turn 1 very aggressively in game 1, but I thought I could mind game it around and he would make an adjustment that maybe wasn't to the benefit if he was expecting me to make a change in some other form. So, but obviously, as we can see, Will's made quite an interesting adjustment, has brought the Palkia out here, which obviously this first turn, it's just such a it was such an eye opener, and obviously
it's a big turn one. And going back to how Will's aggressive playing here, I think this really encapsulates it quite well. We see you going for the taunt to stop that Trick Room again from the Palkia, which we know it's got, and then surprise, surprise, Here comes the flamethrower, which removes the one thing that did so well for you game 1. So at this point you must be thinking, right, well, it's going to be super difficult for me to remove that stack attacker if he's brought it. You do get the Xerneas in. It does deal with the Palkia very nicely, but at this point it feels like Will's kind of done the job with the Palkia that he's brought it for, to get rid of that Cortana. But I guess that's the surprise factor, and it's kind of caught you off guard.
And that U-turn gave him the opportunity to bring in the stack attacker and then bring back his Incineroar onto the field, fake out my Finny so I can't taunt the stack attacker, and it just gets a free Trick Room up, and by then stack attacker is now such a huge problem that it just steamrollers.
And it's really difficult when you've only got 3 Pokemon to actually, especially when you've got something like Kyogre out on the field as well as the stack attacker, to kind of maneuver around and stall out these Trick Room returns. It's very difficult when you've lost like 1 Pokemon. And what I missed out prior to this was the 2 protects that you got off with the Yveltal to stall out the Trick Room. But you mentioned to me earlier on before we came into the recording that was all game management and information management, so you were wanting to find out what Will's moves were, as much information as you could, because you kind of probably felt that at that point the game was beyond bringing back.
Yeah, at that point I didn't have a chance to get in, so there was a point at which it's stored in a bit of time to consider how I want to go into game 3, whether or not I want to make any adjustments. As I said prior to recording, I wanted to get a little bit of information out from whether the Kyogre maybe was a Specs variant, so if it changed moves, that gives me a little bit of an idea of how it operated. So obviously we saw in the recording it used the Water Spout earlier, and then it switched to Thunder without changing the slot, which you didn't see on with the removed turns, but obviously it switched that move, so immediately that discounts Specs. That kind of infers that it's probably a Berry variant, which I couldn't confirm, but strongly hinted towards. But obviously all the damage there was done basically turn 1 with the Incineroar and Palkia, but also the fact that he managed to get Stack Attacker in a comfortable spot to Trick Room. It changed the whole dynamic of that game. Even though I took out one of his restricteds, that Stack Attacker proved invaluable in the end. Yeah,
that was it. So going into game 3, were you more conscious of, right, well, I know that, because if this was me, I'd be thinking, okay, Cortana ripped through his team game 1. I need to just manage my Cortana a bit better now. I'm not going to get caught off guard by that flamethrower from the Palkia if it does come out. But if I can protect my Cortana and utilise it well enough, I know it can carry me through this game. I've just got to be a bit wary about that Stack Attacker Incineroar combination with the Fake Out Trick Room, because if that goes up, then it does become a bit difficult. So I've got to think of ways around that as well. These are the sort of things that you're thinking about going into game 3.
Yeah, exactly. I probably didn't consider all of the potential ways that he could get Trick Room up, and I probably neglected one of the big facets that my team can just give me that additional turn or 2 to actually fully grasp the nettle. And as we're going to see, if you roll the clip, the leads,
here we go.
I change it up slightly by putting in the Xerneas, but the writing kind of immediately comes on the wall.
Yeah, I mean, that's not great. I mean, that lead for you, if he brings the Palkia and the Incineroar, is great. Like, you're happy with that all day long. But the one lead that you didn't want to see there, and it's always the way, isn't it? It always happens when you kind of expect one, it's always the other, which is the Stack Attacker, which makes things instantly very awkward for you, because you initially straight away haven't got a way to stop that fake out Trick Room, and like we've already talked about, if that goes up, it makes it very difficult for you to get around, and you've got the resource at the minute to do the switching and try and stall it out, but you're still going to take a lot of damage in the process of doing that as well.
Yeah, so even this though, it also depends what I've got in the back, and knowing what I know I've brought, there's one very glaring omission that's going to become obvious, and that, ironically, is my own Incineroar.
Yeah.
And hindsight is 2020, but obviously the Incineroar would have been such a invaluable tool in this game 3 that I think could have put me over the line. But obviously, rolling from here, I don't think it's going to take a brain surgeon to know how he's going to play this first turn out, to be honest.
Let's get into it. And I mean, with the Incineroar for yourself, if you got it on your side of the field, such an easy switch from the Xerneas into that Incineroar, get the Intimidator onto both of these attackers, and if Finny gets faked out, then that's fine, because you've got the fake out and the Taunt or the Icy Wind going into the next turn, or whatever you want to do. But it does give you a lot more options to kind of maneuver around and at least stall out these Trick Room turns that at the minute it's a pretty impossible situation to avoid right now. You see, we're going to get the fake out into the Finny, the Taunt user. Xerneas going for the Moonblast, just trying to get Chip onto the stack attack, I'd imagine. Not being able to do really much else in the stack attack, the big problem there, and getting the Trick Room up. And as you can see now, this is a couple of turns on from that, but you can only protect for so long before you're going to take some damage. So seeing there that you lost the Xerneas to the Gyro Ball, and then Kartana coming in taking Gyro Ball damage and Water Spout damage, just proven too much. And then down to Yveltal and Tapu Fini, and it's just extremely difficult, and it just shows how obnoxious the Trick Room can be for you when you don't have that Incineroar. And I think just having the Incineroar would have made it a lot more manageable, but it's hard to bring, I imagine, in this sort of game where you're staring down against a Kyogre and a Palkia on the other side of the field.
Yeah, but I mean, you consider how popular Incineroar is as this sort of glue to so many different teams. It does work even against Kyogres. It just needs a lot more management in that respect.
Yeah.
Bear with me 1 second.
No problem. We're going to just jump into our next game as well, so I'll pause it and just wait for you to come back, my friend. But yeah, really good set. Congratulations to Will. Commiserations to Nigel, of course, but excellent game from both players. And as you can see there, in that match particularly, there's definitely win cons for both players there. It's just about, sometimes you get your leads, like, can paint the whole picture for a match. And as we saw there, if Will had brought the Palkia lead like he did in Game 2, then you think, yeah, well, this is manageable. But because that stack attacker comes out and it's so threatening to so many things on Nigel's side of the field, it makes it extremely difficult once that Trick Room goes up. And yeah, I think that was just the two ways. And for Nigel as well, I mean, in that situation, because he hadn't brought the Incineroar, then your fallback is really going to be, right, okay, let's try and stall these Trick Room turns out. I'd imagine he's Kartana's Assault Vest, that limits it. Finny, probably support 4 move options, no Protect there. Xerneas, yeah, you got Protect, but like we saw in that last match, you can only Protect for so many turns before you have to either switch out, take a lot of damage, or go down and allow something else to come in to hopefully try and gain or get a little bit more momentum in the game. But very good set. Hopefully you guys at home enjoyed it, and we will move into this next game with, it's going to be Stu versus Pinko. So I'm just going to let this game play out here, and we can just chat over it. Stu and Pinko, a really good matchup and really interesting game, this one. So Nigel, are you back with us?
Yes, I am.
Excellent, cool. So we're going to see Stu lead off with the Oranguru and the Groudon, and then we're going to see Pinko lead off with the Incineroar and the Tornado. So the Incineroar getting a nice Intimidate onto that Groudon, always important, and the Tornado is quite nice support here to stop the Oranguru setting up Trick Room and things like that you would normally see it go for. So we're just going to see Stu straight away switch the Groudon out into the Incineroar, just to reset that Intimidate and obviously get and intimidate if he's onto the opposing Incineroar, because it's dark type, it is threatening the Oranguru, so you're going to be a little bit aware of that. You're going to see Oranguru just protect this turn as the Fake Out comes into that what was Groudon slot, now the Incineroar on a taunt from the Tornadus here.
And that
so interesting first turn.
And that protect is actually pretty significant because it gives Stu the opportunity to actually set up the Trick Room in the next turn, because he can now Fake Out into that Tornado slot to stop the Taunt. Obviously, Pinko's decided now is the time to bring Kyogre out, and the opposing Incineroar U-turning into that Oranguru to obviously try and prioritise ball position, but at this point, and we actually even see Lurantis, which kind of negates how Stu will really want to play this next couple of turns, because Lurantis is going to be a big threat to particularly Stu's Groudon, but obviously something very interesting in the Origin form Giratina.
Yeah, big Giratina to the field. So this is really cool because it's a Pokemon that we don't see very often. But Pinko making a nice play that previous turn, making sure if the Trick Room does go up that he's got the Lurantis on the field, which is going to be the slowest thing on the field. So he's got a means of kind of deterring also the Incineroar coming back in because of that Contrary ability. But the big thing here is we're seeing Giratina go for a Calm Mind, and we're going to see an Instruct on that Calm Mind on the Giratina. So boosting those special defense and special attack stats through the roof, really. So +2 on both of those. So we're looking at Semi, Suido, Geomancy, but not really. But it's very similar, with a Skull coming up onto the Oranguru there.
Yeah, and another thing is, because of it being an Origin form Giratina, we saw the Lurantis go for the knockoff into Giratina, but it did knock off an item, so it doesn't also get boost because of the Grizius orb.
Yeah, that's quite a big thing, isn't it? I think, like, just that item cannot be knocked off. It's a bit like a Mega Stone because of the form that it's got, so protecting it almost from knockoff damage. And you know, Lurantis is a very strong Pokemon. See a huge Shadow Ball there into the Lurantis, but it does manage to hang on. It just activates that berry, but it looks like it'll probably be in range for another Shadow Ball now, as we see Groudon into the field for Stu to get rid of that rain.
Worth pointing out, that was a +2/+2 Giratina knocking in the Shadow Ball into Lurantis, and it still survived. So, hardy little thing that Lurantis, you've got to say.
Yeah, definitely. I like this play from Stu a lot here. He brings a Groudon and gets a Weather Control. I'm probably predicting that the Kyogre might switch out this next turn, wants to just maintain that Weather Control line, as we see Pinko going to switch out the Kyogre. So both players now kind of in a locked position where it's who switches in their weather first to get control. But really nice play, I think, from Stu there, predicting that Kyogre going out rather than keeping it in. And that also brings in the Incineroar now that allows Intimidate cycling, and also, you know, you can U-turn out quite freely, as we're going to see the Giratina pick up the knockout now on that Lurantis. So Lurantis going down, unfortunately, after all those Contrary boosts as well, which is super sad because it would be hitting like a truck going into this next turn.
Yeah, and we still know that the Trick Room is up in effect, so these Incineroar are both going to have be quite slow. Obviously, we now see that Stu's is slower, or at least equal to Pinko's Incineroar, manages to get the Groudon back in, but obviously, does it really want to be in first or not? But we also see an Aura Sphere shown from the Origin form. +2, not enough though, and it procs out.
That is a big hit though. Yeah, I think, like, just showing, you know, probably needs one more boost to pick up the knockout there, but still getting rid of that berry, which is quite important, as we see a Flare Blitz come out from Pinko's Incineroar into the Giratina, picking up the knockout there.
Yeah, so they've traded one Pokemon each over the last few turns, but obviously Trick Room expires, and it now gives Stu a little bit of leverage, because the Fake Out this turn, it now can choose its target and give Groudon the opportunity to turn the screw, but obviously looks like it was a forfeit there.
I think so, yeah, and the only thing I can imagine why the forfeit would have come out there from Stu's side was because of the Kyogre in the back, and I guess because probably Weather Control at that point had been won. Yeah, I'm assuming so. That would make sense from my perspective anyway. But we'll go into game 2. As you see, Pinko switch things up a little bit with the Duskmane Necrozma being brought now, the Incineroar, and then the Oranguru and the Groudon again from Stu. So we're going to see that all-important Intimidate again from Pinko's Incineroar onto the Groudon, which is really good. You always want to do that, and I wonder if things will play out a little bit differently. But we're going to see the Oranguru switch out, save that for later. We're going to see the Incineroar on Stu's end come in straight away to get the Intimidate onto both of these physical attackers on Pinko's side of the field.
Really like this switch, by the way, because it just means that if the Kyogre comes in the next turn, especially now that he's double switched, it gives him the opportunity to sort of set up the weather control, and it puts an Intimidate, as you say, onto both these physical attackers on Pinko's side of the field. Both guys are doing some decent damage, but obviously a little bit further on, Stu's going back on the Carmine train again.
Carmine train, yeah, and I think what we saw there was the Incineroar switch out for the Kyogre to come in, bring the weather in, and then we've got the Giratina coming out on the field for Stu's side. He is going to go for those Calm Minds, which he went for game 1. So there's a smart play though from Stu, you know, getting that Calm Mind up and then getting the Groudon in to get the sun control, so reducing the damage of that water spout. But Pinko kind of covering bases here with the Flare Blitz into that what now is Groudon slot. Unfortunately, because of the Intimidate already onto that Incineroar, it's not quite enough. Just proccing one of those 50% berries here on Groudon, putting it all the way back up to about 60% health with Shadow Ball now coming out. So this is a +1 Shadow Ball, and
just
it's
under
not
half.
bad. Yeah, not bad. As we see Kyogre now switch out for the Lurantis. We're going to see a Precipice Blades, but it does miss the Incineroar. That is a pretty big turn here, and gives Pinko a lot of momentum there. So we are going to see the U-turn from the Incineroar on Pinko's end. The Kyogre come back in now with another Shadow Ball, and it is into that slot, so into the Kyogre, but proccing that 50% berry again on this side of the field, and we'll have to wait and see what this Groudon's going to do. But no, we're not going to see. I've just skipped turns, I'm sorry about that, but we'll go see the Groudon still in the back. The Oranguru's out on the field now as a Shadow Ball comes into the Lurantis. Everything's just surviving, just barely surviving.
And this is the thing, we're seeing the Giratina is obviously setting itself up, but it's still, even though it's +1, +2, it's just falling short of those all-important numbers just to pick up knockouts. And it's giving Pinko opportunity to just stay in the match, which realistically Stu could have cut this out long ago, but still there, still taking damage. And obviously we see a Skull go into the Groudon, doing just under half, I think, to the Groudon under the sun. Shadow Ball into the Lurantis should pick up the knockout.
Yeah, got it, just. Yeah.
Then Groudon, obviously, it's won the Weather War to a certain extent, but obviously just making sure it can turn the screw, taking this Incineroar, taking the Skull from the Kyogre like a champ, giving the Giratina ample time to just slowly chip away at this Kyogre, and it's going to get to a point now where it's just so close. And again, Giratina's just taking the hits, and again, Aura Sphere into the Incineroar, going to do massive damage. Takes it just into berry range, so again, just into berry range. It's just giving Pinko that small areas where they can just capitalize on it, but I get the impression that the Giratina is in a position now where it's so entrenched, Pinko can't do anything sizable about it.
Yeah, with the Kyogre such low health at the moment, and then the weather not being in your advantage either, it makes it very difficult. We're going to see the Kyogre switch out now, and the Duskmane Necrozma hit the field again, just to potentially reset that weather. The biggest thing, I think, for Pinko, because with the Groudon lurking in the back and the way that Stu's playing it, switching it in to get the control, switching it straight back out. Now Pinko's probably in the position now where he wants to be able to, let's get it out. But the problem is now with that Duskmane Necrozma coming in, if your Shadow Ball's into that slot, it kind of takes the Duskmane out of the game straight away, which makes it very difficult for Pinko to come back into this one. And we are going to see, it's into that slot. And it will activate a weakness policy here, so giving it +2 attack, +2 special attack. So it is threatening, but it's going to be slower than Giratina, so it is threatened as going into this next turn.
Yeah, it's where it's taken such significant damage, the Necrozma now really struggles to operate properly. Okay, it's got Protect, but what can it do really to make the best of this situation? And we see the Incineroar is now going to U-turn into Groudon, and Groudon we know is it's into Oranguru. I would have imagined that Groudon would have been a safer play to at least possibly throw out a Fire Punch into that slot, or a Precipice Blades to cover both bases in case Kyogre comes in. But we're seeing Stu adjusting his ball position, making sure that he can intimidate and just keep Pinko's lead 2 at bay.
Yeah, he's just supporting this Giratina so well, isn't he? I mean, look at the damage there. It does nothing from the opposing Incineroar into the Giratina, just taking that knockoff so easily. Picking up the KO now, and now he's locked the Weather Wall. I like the play where he doesn't bring in the Groudon, but he U-turns. So I think the thing with the U-turn there, it gives him an idea of what Pinko's done that turn. So if the Kyogre has come in, then yeah, I can switch in my Groudon. If the Kyogre hasn't come in, okay, I'll switch in Oranguru, and I can switch it straight back out to just cycle that Intimidate again onto the Dustman, Necrozma and Incineroar, and we do see a forfeit there and Stu take that one. So going into game 3 here is going to be super interesting as we see a little bit of an adjustment from Stu here. Not going to lead with that Oranguru, we're going to go with the Giratina and Groudon this time as we see Incineroar and Tornadus come out from Pinko's side of the field.
Very interesting to me that he Stu led with both of his restricted straight off the bat. Not a lot of people, I find, like to do that, because if you call a turn incorrectly, you can lose so much momentum. But obviously, we see that Incineroar further down the line picking up a one-hit KO onto the Lurantis and basically removing it from the game. I think that Lurantis was one of Pinko's main stars of this game, and as we're seeing, it's kind of fallen apart, because by now Stu has already won the Weather War, can get in Groudon with relative impunity, and Kyogre's effectively neutered at this point.
Yeah, and I like the inclusion of the Tapu Fini from Stu here as well. It just gives him a little bit more support options, I think, especially if he's got something like Heal Pulse, Swagger to support the Groudon maybe, but the Heal Pulse could be quite big for him, and I just think it gives him a nice switching option as well. You're going to see a knockoff, just take off the Figgy Berry on the Groudon, but so you can probably see that the Tapu Fini has been taunted here. We are going to see another Water Spout come out from the Kyogre. It will be enough to get the Groudon and pick up the knockout there. We'll see what this Tapu Fini does, as the Misty Terrain is left the field this previous turn, so no protection now from status conditions, as we just see another Moonblast into the Kyogre on Pinko's side of the field. But like you say, Nigel, I think the one thing that Pinko could use to unlock Stu's side of the field was going to always be that Lurantis, especially if the Trick Room goes up. You're going to have the opportunity to be the slowest thing in the field, boost through those Contrary abilities and things like that, and then really take advantage and cut through his team. But without it there, it does make it a little bit more difficult, especially with the Groudon kicking around as well. It makes it more difficult for your Incineroar to kind of operate.
Gotta love that 50% thunder accuracy here. Takes out the Finny, so actually from a 4-2 down, Pinko has brought it to what's effectively going to become a one-on-one, but we saw Moonblast the previous turn give a special attack drop onto that Kyogre, so it can't really do all that much. It can't rely on water attacks, because not only does Giratina resist them, but the sun's still active. And it just gives Giratina a free turn to just calm mind and basically remove any hope that Pinko has of taking that game. As we see,
and then forfeit. As you see, there's the forfeit there. So yeah, just one-on-one, especially Stu winning the Weather War there, just made it near impossible for the Kyogre to do anything against the Giratina, especially because, you know, maybe if you've got Ice Beam in that situation, you can do some good damage, but Giratina's so bulky anyway, naturally bulky. After even one Calm Mind, it just makes it a very difficult task to beat one-on-one with Kyogre. It's just not. It's not a Pokemon you want to be going one-on-one with. If you're going up against Giratina, you want to have other stuff like Xerneas, for example.
Yeah.
So, but a really nice set, really nice to feature these two games this week on the channel. And also, thank you so much, Nigel, for making the time to come out and record this with us. And I guess we'll have a look at the week 1 results. So these are the match results from week 4. So we've got Hectic. He beat Pokemarty 2-0 in that match there, pushing Hectic further up the leaderboard. So he's hot on your heels, Nigel, I believe. So then the next match we've got was obviously one featured today, which was Will 2-1 against Nigel. Great set. And then the second match that we featured again today, which is Pinko versus Stu. So Pinko won, Stu in that 2-1, and then you've got Urine and Yuri. So Urine coming out, Urine and Johnny Hacks, I should say. So Urine coming out on top there, 2-1 winner, and then Stu in his second match of the week losing to Jace Face, who has went 2-1. So really nice results there, and we can take a look at the leaderboard for this week, which puts Will at the top of the leaderboard with 12 points. Hot on his heels though is Nigel in 11, then Hectic on 9, Pokemarty on 9, Stu on 9. So lots of players on 9, and it is very open at the minute as well. There's a lot of games in hand here and there. Urine on 8, Jaceface 7, Johnny Hacks on 5, and then Pinko on 1. So it's still a lot to play for, and nothing has been sealed yet, like we said at the start of the episode. So going to be really exciting going into the rest of the tournament, and I hope you guys are enjoying it, and I hope you continue to enjoy it, Nigel.
Oh yeah, obviously I'm looking forward to this week's game. I won't spoil because obviously we're a little bit further ahead, so I won't spoil who my opponent is this week, but obviously I'm looking forward to it. I'm quietly confident that I can end this series on a high, but obviously now I've got to be really careful with Will has obviously got the jump on me, and he's got a game in hand still, so he's looking really strong, and Hectic as well. The only other loss that I've taken in this series so far, and obviously he's still got a game in hand, so they've still got ground to make up, or ground to further push themselves forward. So I've got my work cut out for me, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. And obviously the pack behind is still ultra close. Anyone down to 7th, maybe even Johnny as well, if you consider that he's got a game in hand. Any of those can actually still realistically win out. So it's going to be a really close finish, and I'm looking forward to the last couple of weeks.
It's going to be very exciting, me too as well. But we'll wrap things up there, guys. I just want to say a huge thank you to Nigel for coming on. It's been a pleasure as always, my friend.
As always.
And, a huge thank you to all of you at home as well. So leave your comments in the comment section below. Any questions you've got, anything that you loved about this episode, just let us know, and we'll look forward to reading through them very soon. But until next time, guys, we'll see you next week for week 5. So until then, take care of yourselves. Thanks as always for watching, and bye bye.